did.
Very good though, baby. Yeah, it looks like they're not in
Look at down there.
I'm going to see if we can find those animals in about 30 to 40 minutes. And you're also going to learn on this tour why this zoo is here. In short, the zoo is here to make all life thrive. And I think you're going to have fun with me on this Tuesday because I'm a bit of a goofball and a wingnut and a knucklehead mixed spazatron. So get your eyes to the left or to the right and you're likely to see a human being here at the zoo. Yeah, that's the most important animal that we have, helping us out with our conservation goals. And we just rolled up on the front street. They call this Flamingo Plaza right here across from the entrance, named for the American flamingo on the right-hand side. Now don't forget all the wonderful things that happen out here on Front Street. Up in front of my bus is a Wildlife Explorers base camp, and that's hands-on activities for zoo explorers of all ages. The blue buckets going up and down, that's the Skyfari. That gondola is available to everyone here at the zoo, unlimited ride. And don't forget, up here at the front of the zoo, we have the reptile house and the reptile walk. You know, there's lots of things you're going to cross off your bucket list here at the San Diego Zoo, but you might find them up here on Front Street. Get your eyes to the right-hand side. Sometimes your view is better than mine. We're looking for an orange cat with black stripes. Those stripes help it blend in with the environment. But what we have there is a Malayan tiger. That's from the Malay Peninsula of South Asia. And it's an endangered species. So here at the zoo, it has something called the Species Survival Plan. That's like online dating for zoo animals. Match.com.zoo type thing. Because once one of our big cats is ready for reproduction, we will trade it out with another zoo that has Malayan tigers. We do that to avoid inbreeding so we can maintain good, strong conservation genetics. All right, I'll pull my bus up, see the folks in the back, and find that orange cat.
Hi, baby.
So we here at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, we are a conservation organization. Conservation is a concept where we know that we humans are going to make use of the land for our homes and for our food, but we want to make sure some of that land is set aside for plants and animals for their homes and their food. I guess we call that habitat. Here in the zoo, we have a lot of very small habitats that require a lot of human maintenance. The animals inside, well, they're simply ambassadors for their kind, showing us what we might lose if we didn't follow through with conservation. But the goal of conservation is to have these animals living in their wild habitats, outside of the zoo, in and out of the water. Hey, we've got them up on the beach, everybody. That's a special treat for us.
Oh, the hippos?
Now, when that large animal decides to go into the water, you know, it doesn't actually swim. It simply plugs its nose and then it walks along the bottom. Yeah, it'll plug its nose as if it was a blowhole on a whale or a dolphin. Hey, if you didn't know, we've been a zoo here in Balboa Park for a little over 100 years. And you can imagine some of those first zoo exhibits, well, they weren't much more than a box with bars in front. We throw an animal inside so that we humans could get up close and get a closer look. But we don't have exhibits at our zoo anymore. That's old school. What we have now are habitats. So the next habitat we're going to roll by is going to be the Allen swamp monkeys and the red-tailed monkeys. Now when you look into this habitat, you might see ropes and swings for these animals to play with. Because it turns out play is part of normal animal behavior. Yeah, we humans play, and so do animals. Predator animals, they want to play games like tag and figure out if they're the fastest one in their bunch. And prey animals, well, they'll play hide and seek and learn how camouflage works. But they'll do it with their family and their friends before they do it for real, so we call that play. Seeing a whole bunch of flamingos in one place and one time. It's what the ornithologists might say is a flamboyance of flamingos. There's a lot of crazy terms for groups of birds, isn't there? Now what we're going to have over here, it's known as the greater flamingo. It's from the salt marshes in Africa. There's a bunch of them right there. The one that was greeting us at the front of the zoo is the American flamingo, and that's the one from the Caribbean. But all flamingos get that pink color in the feathers from the foods they eat. They turn that unusual shaped bill upside down in the water, and it becomes a filter for small things like algae and brine shrimp. Well, it's those tiny little crustaceans. They have a carotenoid pigment in them called beta-carotene. That's the thing that makes carrots orange, but we see it as pink in the feathers of these birds. But if they didn't get it in their diet, they'd fade away to white. Much like a feather that falls off a pink flamingo, it doesn't stay pink, it fades to white. Now they're underneath that netting there because there's still an avian flu that's going around the earth. It's a bird flu, like a pandemic for the birds. And see that great blue heron that's on top of that habitat over here? We're trying to keep our native birds out. They might carry that disease into our habitat. But let me tell you about that habitat. That's the white-breasted cormorant in there. There's cormorants all around the earth. And a cormorant is a diving bird. It goes underwater and chases after fish. So to assist in that, it has solid bones and not the hollowed bones that most birds have. But it also doesn't have a lot of wax on its feathers because that would make it too buoyant. Hey, I'm taking a look on the right-hand side. I see a beautiful purple flowering shrub. You see that one there? Now that is what's known as the mountain lilac or the California lilac. It's a native species here. Now I see it blooming in the zoo, and that means in a couple of days to maybe a couple of weeks, it's going to be purple spots in the mountains on the outside of San Diego here. And that's going to be that California lilac. And heading up the side of a canyon right now, we built our zoo here in a canyon. We have a Mediterranean climate here in San Diego, and that's a real mild one. That allows our horticulture team to recreate so much. But as I'm heading up the hill, I'm looking at sweet gum tree and redbud tree, longleaf pine tree. You know what? That's a reminder I'm heading up to the northern frontier. Let's go see if our polar bears are hanging out. But on our way up this hill, get your attention on the right-hand side. We're going to be looking for some striped ungulates from the African plains. That may be a zebra or a kudu. Now an ungulate, that's just a fancy term for a mammal with a highly specialized digestive system that allows it to get all it can out of its herbivorous diet. And to the left of my bus is one of the most dangerous habitats I know of. That's Highway 163. If you were to take that north out of San Diego for about 40 minutes, you'd find yourself at the other front door of the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, the Safari Park up in Escondido, where we've got 18 times the amount of acreage that we have here in Balboa Park. A lot more room for a beautiful ungulate to roam, like that large one there that you see, and that's an eland, one of the largest ungulates on the earth. Now another thing about our Safari Park is one of our conservation hubs is the southwestern United States. So we've actually set aside land at our Safari Park, and we've left it for the plants and animals of Southern California. We refer to it as a habitat corridor, but that's how the zoo is doing our part with our land for conservation. So hopefully you'll get on up to Escondido and see what we're doing up there at the Safari Park. It's the warty pig. And the warty pig is an endangered species from the Philippines. So finally, that's on board helping out that animal. And we're going to be looking for the gearneck in the middle habitat here on the right. Take a look for the beautiful long-legged, long-necked animal. Now that's a very loose translation of giraffe neck, gearneck. But I want you to notice that in the browser, it'll only feed on the branches of trees and shrubs. Look at all the grazing grass that's been left behind. Hey, if you're into that polar bear, get your eyes on the left-hand side. You might be seeing more of the polar bear over there. Now, thanks to conservation, we all get to know Chicoan peccary. Hey, I had a guest once tell me that all the males in that habitat must be named Gregory. Gregory peccary. Yeah, that's a good one, huh? Hey, take a look over here on the left-hand side. We've got the Skyfari. Now, the Skyfari, it is included in your admission. So that'll bring you from the back of the zoo here. It'll drop you up on Front Street right next to the Wildlife Explorers Base Camp, right next to the exit. So make use of the Skyfari. We also have a 4D theater here at our zoo. If you don't know about 4D, you sit inside the theater, watch a short film, and get all your senses tickled. And that is a slight upcharge, but we've got options. You can watch Animal Kingdom 4D, The Wild Awaits, or The Bear and the Squirrel. Yeah, so check out 4D here at the zoo. All right, we're about to pull us into the Elephant Odyssey. More than just elephants, as you'll soon see. Coming up to the right-hand side of my bus, take a look through that gate. That's the Basher Bridge. That's where you're going to find the bridge that takes you across the canyon over to the Lost Forest. You can take Treetops Way, find the primates over there, and wind your way up to the front of the zoo. But you can also take the elevators down here in the Asian Passage by the panda bears, the penguins.
Okay, all right.
And just roll by our pollinator habitat and insectivorous plants. I keep bragging on the plants here at the zoo, don't I? Yeah, plants do photosynthesis. They convert sunlight energy to themselves. That's something that we can't do as animals. We've got to eat a plant, or eat an animal that's eating a plant to be part of any kind of a food web. But sometimes we can skip the middleman and save resources. Hey, see if you can find 3 amigos in this rack on the left-hand side of my bus. There's 3 fuzzy potatoes in there. And that's an animal known as the rock hyrax. That little guy, despite its small size, is a close living relative of the elephant. I know it's hard to believe, but it's the aspects of the skeleton that give it away, especially the tusks that are hidden inside the mouth of the rock hyrax.
South African rock.
All right, but I'm rolling by the habitat on the right. I've got my eyes open. I'm looking for probably our most famous and evidence here of the San Diego Zoo, and that would be the African lion. Not seeing them right now.
Babe,
Yeah.
lions.
But the African lion started the San Diego Zoo, they say, back in 1916. That's why we have the beautiful buildings and things here in Balboa Park. We were celebrating the opening of the Panama Canal. That's when Dr. Harry heard
He's hiding.
It was after that Dr. Harry heard the roar of a lion, started the San Diego Zoo back then. Back in 1916, we've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Is there going to be dinosaurs on this?
All right, this next animal might be a little bit challenging to find, but I'll direct your eyes. It's going to be about 10 feet off the ground, directly in front of across from the front of the bus here. It's in the sun on a perch. It's at the fence line on the other side of this habitat. Look at the eyes of the people over there and follow their eyes, and they'll tell you where the jaguar is. The jaguar is, oh, here she comes. She's walking towards us right now. Right in the middle of the habitat, everybody.
Oh, there she is.
I think that jaguar saw a dog that was walking by on the bus road. Yes, indeed. A little predatory behavior there, huh? So that
Oh, there she is.
jaguar
She's
technically
right
is
in
not
front
a
of me.
spotted
Right there,
cat. We
baby.
say
See
it
her?
has rosettes.
She's tiny.
The back of that cat looks like the light coming through the canopy above. Very well camouflaged. But the jaguar represents the Amazonia hub of conservation. What's happening in the Amazon is a lot of the rainforest is being cut down. And in its place is left grazing lands. Well, that's no good if you're a jungle cat like a jaguar. You're not going to find your food or your mates in a grazing land. Some say we could connect up the remaining islands of forest habitat for this jaguar, but that's kind of a band-aid solution. Habitat loss is the main reason. Animals need conservation's oversight. Her name is Nindiri, by the way, that beautiful jaguar. And Nindiri is a volcano in Nicaragua, and that's part of the natural range of the jaguar. Well, she must be a fiery cat if she's named after a volcano. Hey, take a look at the right-hand side. This is the habitat for the elephants on the far side. But down in the near right, you might see some other animals. I think I'm seeing something that looks like a long-legged black pig with an extra long snout, and that's going to be the Baird's tapir. Yeah. Also, there might be something that looks like a guinea pig the size of a dog over there, and that's going to be the capybara. The capybara is the largest rodent on the earth. What makes it a rodent are those front teeth, those gnawing front teeth. They have to keep chewing on stuff to keep them sharp. I think I see a capybara over by the water hole in the back there. And I see the tapir in that window, that square window. Now, I'm a retired biology professor, so I'm familiar with a tapir. I used to take my students down to Costa Rica, and we would track the tapir on the Muddy Rainforest Trail, and it left a 3-toed footprint, and that was unusual. It looked like a bird or a dinosaur. But it turns out the tapir is an odd-toed ungulate. Shares ancestry with horses and rhinoceros. I'm looking for an elephant. I do see one hung up there next to the Elephant Care Center. So I'm not sure we're getting a good view of it, but I'll tell you about the habitat that we have here for our elephants. Because sometimes there's some curiosity. There's those big mushroom-shaped structures out there, and that's shade for the elephants. There might be some heaters in this time of year, but hanging down from there, you're going to see those barrels, balls, and bags on ropes and chains. Well, some of the elephants' food is stuffed in there, and they have to manipulate it with their trunk to get the food out. And that keeps the elephants more active here at the zoo. And we say it enriches their lives, so it's called a feeding enrichment. Yeah, most of the animals here at the zoo get their food in a puzzle box or maybe an activity, because we've been taking care of animals for over 100 years and we've learned a few things about being a good zoo. All right, I'm going to keep searching see if I can find us some more elephants. But let me tell you about the Elephant Care Center on the right here. This is some technology we pioneered at the zoo. Now imagine growing up you wanted to be a zookeeper that works on elephants. Well, that would be a dangerous occupation, because elephants are so large, just by shifting their weight, they might harm a human. Well, through the Elephant Care Center, we've got a solution to that problem. You bring the elephant inside a box there, and the animal care specialist or zookeeper can work on the elephant from the outside. And so we keep all lives thriving at our zoo. One of the things that happens in there about once a week is mani-pedi time. Yeah, the elephant pedicure. They seem to like that. And one of those boxes is a scale. When they stand in there, we weigh an elephant. That's a challenge we had to overcome here at our zoo. But we're so proud of our Elephant Care Center, we hope other zoos start to incorporate that into their zoo. Because the animals at the zoo should be well cared for, of course, but the humans caring for the animals is part of that equation.
They're so
All right, I think I found some of our elephants. There's a couple of them behind us working on that feeding enrichment. Now, as you look back at those elephants, I want you to note that one of those elephants. Now, the next one you're going to see on the right, this is
Look at that guy.
a 20-something-year-old male that we brought in from another zoo to kind of mentor those younger guys, to kind of calm them down and let them know what it's like to be just a regular zoo elephant that doesn't have to bonk heads every day. Hey, take a look on the left-hand side. This is going to be our butterfly conservation lab. This is a collaboration with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We learned that the Keno checker spot butterfly was in trouble in San Diego County. So we're working on a project. We're going to rear up some caterpillars to adults and we're put her on the county. Yeah, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Hey, take a look at the right-hand side. You're going to see dromedary camels. And the reason I remember that's a dromedary is I see that one prominent hump. So that prominent hump spells the letter D for dromedary. If we had a two-humped camel, that's the one known as the Bactrian. The two humps spell the letter B for Bactrian. But that's the dromedary. Now we've got camels and elephants here in the Elephant Odyssey because we want to take you back to the Pleistocene, the Ice Age, about 1 million years ago. And at that time, here in California, we had elephant-like animals, we had camel-like animals, we had the giant ground sloth, we had the saber-toothed cat. And we have some really large birds. It's right up there in that rock, but I'm hoping it's going to fly over to the perch.
Dang.
Come on over, condor. I get to introduce you to the California condor.
Wow, he's big.
Come on over, condor. This is where you hang out.
He literally looks like one of the ones from Jungle Book.
All right, we didn't choreograph it as well as we sometimes do, but that bird's going to fly over here. I'm pretty sure. So that's the California condor, that bird that was on the rock back there around the corner. It's got a pink head, kind of a bald head, and it's a scavenging bird. Now these other birds that you see up on the rock in front of us here, that's the raven. And a raven is also a scavenger, sometimes called a carrion feeder or a recycler. But the condor, if it can't find the carcass that it's looking for with its 8-foot wingspan and really good eyes, well, it'll simply seek out other carrion feeding birds, like ravens or vultures, and then it simply swoops on down and takes over their carcass. Yeah, like a big brother might. I know, I grew up with a big brother. But it's called a pecking order at the carcass, and the largest scavenger gets to go first. Come on over, condor.
Come on. Come on.
But the story of the California condor is a story of conservation. At one point in time, we had about 20 of these birds left on the earth. So critically endangered, the San Diego Zoo and the Los Angeles Zoo, we got the remaining individuals into our care. And here we are, several generations later, we have more than 500 California condor. So we're not just showing them off here at the zoo, we release them back into the wild. And they're soaring over California once again. And that's the story of making all life thrive we love to tell here at the zoo. Now, we didn't get a good view of that bird. It's way back behind us on the top rock there. Look for that pink head. He's usually on this stump right up here. But that condor, you know, that's not the state bird of California. I used to think it was, but our state bird here in California is the California quail. But did you know the Native Americans, the indigenous, they've got a different name for that condor bird. That's the one that they call thunderbird. Well, it certainly is my pleasure to tell all these great conservation success stories and how the zoo has made all life thrive. But we'd like to ask you to do your part. Hopefully you can live your life in an environmentally conscious way, like reduce, reuse, and recycle. I don't want to get too preachy on you, but the more resources we leave on this earth, the more it's going to stick around for us and the animals. Now on the right-hand side, that's the Kopje. That J is silent. The Kopje is a Dutch word. It represents the flat grasslands of Africa, when there's a rock outcropping. Well, that means we're going to have habitat for things like plants, and then insects, and then reptiles, birds, and mammals, and eventually fungus. Pretty soon we have a fully functioning community of life on the Kopje. And that's kind of like the goal of conservation. We're trying to restore the native biological diversity of our ecosystem. You know, we just shorten that catchphrase. We just say biodiversity. Wisconsin. All right, take a look at the center of that habitat down in that water hole. And that's going to be Rancisco, and he's an Andean bear. Now, if you get a look at the face of that Andean bear, another common name is the spectacled bear. It looks to some like it's wearing a really large pair of eyeglasses.
Oh, baby.
But Francisco, I think he's a little over 2 years old. He was born here at the zoo. His parents are still here. We might even see a Turbo, his father, at the bottom of Bear Canyon. But that's the Andean bear from the Andes Mountains of South America. Hey folks, I've got some cameras up in the next habitat. I think we might be in luck. And we are. Oh boy, take a look. In the back of this habitat are two small sloth bears. We've got Mama Sloth Bear and two babies
Where?
here in this habitat.
We're in the back of the bus.
Follow the cameras, see where they're looking, and they'll tell you where to look for those tiny little black bears there. The sloth bear. So the sloth bear comes to us from the foothills of the Himalayan mountains over there in India. It's not called a sloth bear because it's lazy. Most bears spend their day. Hey, I've been talking like I'm a Chicago bear, right? The Chicago bear, I think, is representing the North American black bear. Well, we don't have the North American black bear in our zoo. But what we do have is the North American brown bear. And there they are. You probably know the North American brown bear better as the grizzly bear. Their names are Scout and Montana right there. Those are two brothers. Most zoos would be happy to have one, but we get two because these guys grew up together. And the story we got, just outside of Yellowstone National Park, their mother was teaching them that food could come out of garbage cans and dumpsters. Well, that's no good for the bears and no good for the humans of that area. So to make all life thrive, we had an agreement to bring them to our San Diego, California zoo. And so glad we did, because that animal, the brown bear, the grizzly bear, that is the symbol of our state. That's the animal that's on the California state flag. But we no longer have that big bear roaming the high Sierras or even wandering down to the Pacific Ocean like it once did. We say they're extirpated, and that means they're locally extinct here in California. Like I said, we got ours from the Rocky Mountains. What a special treat. These guys are really showing off today, going into the hot tub. Now we call that the grizzly bear, but technically that's the North American brown bear. And did you know this? They have that same bear over in Northern Europe, and it's called the European brown bear, and it is brown. But here in North America, the range of our grizzly bear, that's what we call this one, the range of our grizzly bear is so broad that its coloration could be anywhere from a light tan to a dark black. Yeah, so when you're thinking about grizzly bear coloration, you got to remember, there's a whole lot of variation. Yeah, I think I was just a poet, and I'm fully aware. All right, we're out of time too, or I can't sit in front of the grizzlies all day.
Wow.
I know, shoot. I can just hang out there all
We
day.
got a roller bus on a Bear Canyon. Hey, there's the papa. The sloth bear babies, their papas in the sun in the back of this habitat there. That sloth bear, it's a small compact bear, but they're quite vicious. They might have to fend off an attack from maybe a tiger or a snow leopard. From the foothills of the Himalayan mountains. Now, if you know about the Jungle Book, well, that was a book or a movie that was set in India. So, Baloo the bear was probably a sloth bear.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
All right, time to head on out of Bear Canyon. We're heading into the center of the zoo, Center Street, parts of the USA. Well, let me tell you the story of a chipping sparrow. That's a wild bird here in Balboa Park, and sometimes it's eating out of the garbages. But its range could be anywhere in North America. So I could go up to Minnesota and get a chipping sparrow. And if I did, brought it down here to San Diego and had it sing, well, the California birds would go, "Hey buddy, you're not from around here, are you?" Because it turns out, just like the regional dialect of our human voice, well, bird songs will take on those regional differences as well. So a chipping sparrow from Dallas, Texas, singing a slightly different tune than the chipping sparrow from Boston, Massachusetts. Things like the wombats, the wallabies, and the kangaroos. A koala is a eucalyptus specialist that lives up in the trees. And I will admit there's a lot of common names of animals that are very misleading like that. I've got an example for you. I'm a scuba diver. When I go underwater, I'm trying to find a seahorse. Well, a seahorse is not a large underwater mammal, not at all. A seahorse is a tiny little fish. But I consider myself pretty fortunate. I've seen a few seahorse in my scuba diving days. Another thing I look for underwater are those 5-pointed starfish. But you know what? We don't call them starfish anymore. That's misleading because they're not fish. These days we just call them sea stars. Or if you want to be technical, you call them echinoderms. That translates as spiny skin. Echinoderm. Yeah, that's a pretty good name for a sea star. And don't get me started on jellyfish, because they are not fish. We just call them sea jellies. Hey, take a look on the right-hand side. If you're seeing koala in there, that might give you deja vu all over again. as we roll into Sydney's Plaza for the second time. That's what Yogi Berra used to say.
I was going to say, that's Yogi Berra.
Hopefully you remember, coming up on the right is going to be the urban jungle. That's where you find giraffe, cheetah, and rhino. Hey, if you remember that, I think you win a prize. Your prize is a visit to the urban jungle. But I'm heading to the unloading dock, everybody. Our tour is just about over. But I'm so glad you got to hop on my bus and hear my story. Well, now you know that we here at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, we are a conservation organization. And we exist to make all life thrive. And I want to tell you that just by walking through the front door of our zoo today, you became my superhero because you're helping us out with our conservation goals. Now remember, we don't inherit this earth from our ancestors. We borrow this earth from our children. Real. But then why is a cycad so super tough? Well, a cycad is super tough because it's well adapted to keep something like a triceratops dinosaur from eating it, like way back in the dinosaur era. So reach out and touch a cycad palm here at the Botanic Garden of the San Diego Zoo. All right, that's the end of our tour. I'm your driver, Scott. It's been my pleasure.